Hi, Patrick. How are
Hi,
you?
Christy. Oh my gosh, I'm so good. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm looking forward to this conversation on the coming eclipse in Virgo. So I'm happy to start in. But first, let's just do a little introduction of ourselves for those who don't know us. I am the host of the Somatic Wisdom podcast and also a budding astrologer. So that's a little bit about me.
I love budding astrologer, and this eclipse certainly has an energy of budding, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I am Patrick Geary. I am an astrologer. I am an energy practitioner, and I'm a coach and an alchemist and a magician and all things.
So many things. Yeah.
So many things. And that's really how I
Multi-hyphenate.
feel about, yeah, I feel about this eclipse is there are so many things as we sat down together to look at all of the different aspects and what's happening as part of this. I am just blown away with how active this eclipse is and just how much change it is bringing into our lives.
Totally. Yeah, it's quite spectacular. So I hope this sheds a little insight for anyone who's curious about it and wants a little bit more understanding of the astrology behind it. Yeah.
I know that it will, and we have our guiding questions, which are, what do you love about this eclipse and how good can it get? And
Yes.
really bearing in mind that this astrology is very much about possibility more than it is about prediction, and knowing that you can attune yourself to the vibration of what you want to experience.
Mhm.
And eclipses wash things in, and surprises come along, and we're here to sit with them, to accept them, to integrate them, and then to choose how we want to move forward. So I love to take that perspective, and I know you do too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's always our choice. And so some of the things that may be surprising to us will be opportunities for us to exercise that choice over how we want to respond.
Amen. So tell me, what do you love about this eclipse?
Well, a couple things that I love about it. I think that there's so much going on, and we will get into those details in a little bit. As a Pisces rising, I am very aware about the Saturn opposing the eclipse. And so there is a sense of, for me, cleaning up and getting ready. There's sort of a sense of preparation, like there's a chapter being closed out, but it's also like I'm tidying things up because I'm allowing for big things to sort of roll in. And there's something very satisfying about tidying up. And I know Saturn has this resonance with, getting our chores done, those kinds of things. And Virgo as well. It's interesting how, those opposing energies are also like complementary in a way. And yeah, so I find that kind of fascinating. So that's what I'm loving about it right now.
Me too. And I'm hearing that expression as you talk about Saturn and Pisces, cleaning up your act of
Yes.
this wonderful tidying and organizing energy. And Saturn just sort of coming in and saying, Christy, you got to clean up your act.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
a catch-all expression. It's from one of my favorite teachers, Amy Jo Ellis, who runs the Court of Atonement, who talks about the importance and the power of cleaning up your act. And she even has a protocol for putting people in almost like it's like energetic purgatory. If I'm putting you in energetic purgatory so you can clean up your act, or putting
Interesting.
ourselves in purgatory so that we're quarantining ourselves in some way so that we need to clean up our act. And maybe
Oh,
this eclipse is bringing in some of that energy of putting us in our bubbles and in our places in a good way so that we can clean up our act. It's funny that putting someone in their place has such a negative connotation. Where do you want to be but your place, right?
right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, and our places can be, that can be an energetic place, that can be a physical place. Being at home, like I love being in my place here at home. I mean, there's something joyful about it. And our place in the world too. So like, yeah, that's interesting. That
It
is,
is.
yeah.
And I'll share too, what one of the things I'm really loving about this eclipse is it feels really to me like there is this outer layer or this husk that's
Mm.
being peeled away or being pulled
Mm.
away. I had this in an experience yesterday with a friend and a fellow coach. We are doing an exchange, and I had an energy session. And in this session, I felt this white energy come into my body, and I felt it come out of my heart. It came in through my navel, and then it came up and out through my heart. And as it did, I felt it peel away. It was like
Wow.
it was being ripped apart and pulling apart from the inside. And then I felt this pure white light, this me emerge from this, and it felt so light and so free. And what really, really struck me afterwards is I went to water my cactuses. I have some little succulents here in my office. And they've all been in perfect health for many years. And my little cactus here has collapsed in on itself.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And you can see even here at the top, it's opened up and there's now a lot of damp and water down in the pot. It's not like a puddle, it's a pool. It's like it's dissolving or melting in some way. And I just thought, wow, this
Mm,
cactus is perfectly capturing that energetic experience that I had. This
mm,
melting down, this softening on the inside that left the outside parts just kind of collapse and
mm.
deteriorate, this coming out of the husk
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
liquids. And looking at that process, this looks messy, right? Like this isn't what you wish to look like.
Right.
But also knowing that this is renewal in a
Yes.
really powerful way. It's the cactus collapsing back into the soil to make that fertile ground for what comes next.
Mm,
So while I've experienced a lot over the past few weeks, and I can't say they're all things that I would have consciously chosen, what I love is that it's softening me.
mhm, mhm.
It's bringing more light into me, and it's bringing more possibility.
Yeah, 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 that's beautiful, Patrick. I love that sense of renewal when the husk, sort of gets shed or comes off in a way. It's like there's a little bit of tenderness, but there's also that sense of renewal, energetic renewal. So, yeah, that's beautiful.
Amazing. And well, we can see that in the eclipse itself. What
Hmm.
do you think? Should we take a look at the chart?
Sure. Let's share the chart so that people can get a sense visually. I know this always helps me because I like looking at the geometry of a chart. I find that it helps me kind of understand the astrology a little better. So, can you see that, Patrick? Making
I
sure.
can, and I do too. And I'd say if you're watching this and you don't have any familiarity with astrological charts, don't worry about it. Like Christy
Yeah.
says, it's communicating with you.
Yeah.
Just looking at it and just seeing it and just absorbing it and listening it and seeing the shapes and seeing the geometry and seeing the alignments, that's communicating with a deeper version of you. So
Yeah.
just allowing for that communication to happen without needing to try to figure it out or
Yeah.
parse it out, which is also, again, perfect. Like perfectly attuned wisdom for a South Node eclipse in Virgo, which is really about releasing the need to know, releasing the need to understand. And that is the polarity. We see that there's the sun and the moon coming together up there at the top in the sign of Virgo, and they're right by the South Node.
Yeah.
And that really captures what you were talking about too, this releasing,
Hmm.
this letting go into what comes next. And that South Node, as I work with it, is really that point of letting go, that point of release. And it can be experienced as loss. And at the same time, it's also experienced as reconnection.
Hmm.
If anything, maybe it's loss of the idea of separateness,
Hmm.
loss of the idea that I exist outside of the universe, so that I exist as someone other than you. It is loss in a material way, but in a way that connects us with a deeper spirituality,
Yeah.
a deeper truth that we are always together and that everything around us is always present. So those South Node eclipses, it's sort of funny, right? Because it's a new moon at a solar
Yeah.
eclipse, and a new moon is very much the energy of moving forward into the next chapter. Something new is beginning, but it's happening at a drain point.
Right.
So how are we moving forward? We're moving forward by letting go. We're
Yep.
moving forward by releasing.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so some associations I have with that are really, sort of that sense of purification that happens. And so I was reflecting on the fact that I've tried to make time and space for more rest and for I've been drinking a lot of water. Just I don't know, that's an eclipse thing for me, Patrick, because I always feel like there's a lot moving through me.
Uh,
Just yeah,
Me too. I gotta say,
yeah.
I find drinking water during eclipses is necessary, and also it really helps the change wash through.
Yeah, yeah, because we're sort of cleansing parts of our whatever our experience that need to move through us. And water is a helpful way to do that. So, um, yeah. And I think, yeah, the South Node is so interesting to me. I was born on with the South Node conjunct my sun. And so I'm just always curious about sort of um, Node experiences. And like you said, they can be loss and there can be sort of I guess what feels a little gentler to me is like release, because sometimes we're releasing things that may have served us for some time and now we no longer need them. And there's nothing inherently bad about that. It's just if we're attached to something, we may experience that as loss. But release can also be, I mean, when you think of releasing all the burdens that you might have had, like that's a beautiful thing. Like let's release whatever burdens, whatever might have been weighing us down in some way. Like that can be kind of a an experience of lightening the load in a way that feels actually quite nice. So yeah.
It can be. It's a departure gate.
Hmm.
And some things we're
Yeah.
glad to see go, and other things maybe it's harder for us to see go.
Hmm.
So I want to acknowledge that grief can be a part of those experiences,
Yeah.
the things that we are attached to, you know, whether they are physical things or experiences or people.
Hmm.
Eclipses are times very often where I've had this happen at previous eclipses where people I've known who've been close to me, and it's happened this time too, have left their physical bodies.
Yeah.
And that can bring up a lot. It can certainly bring up grief and that experience of loss, of wanting to be with someone who you can't see in the same way anymore. And
Mhm.
at the same time, with that spiritualizing influence, knowing that you're always together.
Yeah.
So it is funny duality.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. So allow space for that too, if you need it. That would be my advice if I were, helping someone move through the eclipse, is just realize that like, don't overburden yourself with extra things if you don't need to, because, you may want a little more space for those kinds of releases or for any kind of grief that comes up. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Virgo is a wonderful sign for minimalism. And it's
Yeah.
also a great sign for purification, which
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier as well. I think about that so much with Virgo. It rules the intestine. So it is where I'm gathering what's valuable and I'm releasing what's no longer valuable. That cleansing that Virgo can offer us. And so there is that opportunity here for that deep cleansing and for that deep release. And particularly here, maybe letting go of patterns of control.
Mhm.
That's one of the things I've been very aware of.
Yeah.
That yes, we're always choosing how we experience things. And also, it's really sometimes a balm to let go of control and
Mhm.
to not feel like you need to manage everything and you need to figure everything out. Because, yes, you are always choosing it, but remembering that you is many different levels.
Yeah.
There's the conscious you, which is one tiny part of you, that your energy is making the choices, your soul is making the choices.
Yeah.
And not just your soul, the souls of everyone around, and the universe is making these choices. So surrendering to that divine control, surrendering to the divine guidance, rather than needing to feel like you have to figure it out
Yeah.
and that you have to individually as a person know where things are going and what's going to happen. You need to organize it and you need to put it in place and it needs to be perfect or it won't be good enough, which is just a passport to exhaustion. So
Mhm.
for me too, this eclipse is really that invitation to let go of those desires to control things. And
Mhm.
even here, maybe a desire to control what your eclipse experience will be like.
Yeah.
And what would it be like if we could just surrender to it, knowing that whatever it brings is okay?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes it can bring up a surprising thing that we're not anticipating. So, yeah, just being open to that and realizing that, um, yeah, we don't control the universe. Actually, every time I think about that, I'm just like so relieved.
I know,
Don't
right?
control the
It's
universe.
kind of amazing. And on
It's
some
not our.
level, yeah, we are the universe. We are God, whatever word we want to use, and we are making all of the choices. And also, trying to use our little human brains to figure every single thing out would just be utterly exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's not what we're here to do. We have our own guidance system, and our guidance system so often works on feelings and excitement and passion and what we want to do and what brings us joy. So allowing joy to come in as that new guidance system.
Yeah. Yeah. Truly. Truly. What else are you seeing here in the chart, Patrick, that you want
Well,
to?
we were talking about how this eclipse is happening at the very tail end of Virgo, and you were mentioning the anaretic degree, which is the last degree of any sign in the zodiac. So, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I think for me, what I see is certain endings. The analytic degree can be wrapping up something that we've been working on for a while. And I'm just going to mention too, across the wheel from Virgo is Saturn. And so Saturn had come into Aries for a few months this summer and went back into Pisces. And so I think with that opposition there, I see sort of that last degree of Virgo, we're going through some kind of ending or some kind of completion. And then with Saturn going back into Pisces, it also feels like, okay, we're going to go back and wrap up some kind of theme that was happening in our life. And and that feels like there's a discipline to that. There's like a sort of putting the final touches on something or um, making sure we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's or done some part that may feel a little more detail oriented. I associate like Virgo with understanding the details or looking at the details. And then, yeah, Saturn, I'm applying that sort of discipline as well. Is like, okay, yeah, there's sometimes a few things, and I'm not very good at this always, Patrick. I definitely don't claim to be a master at this, but I think there is something satisfying about it. This is one thing I also love about this eclipse is sometimes when we are wrapping up the details, like there's something very satisfying about like putting away our toys at the end of the day or, making sure the laundry is actually put away instead of like sitting in piles all over the place, right? There's something very like, especially when we're going through a release point, to me, it feels like, again, it feels like an unburdening in a way. It's like we're unburdening ourselves from, something that maybe is just needs some closure to it or some completion. So that's what comes up for me when I think about those concepts.
Yeah, and I often feel like the planets that are at the last degree of a zodiac are, like you mentioned, they're wanting to clean everything up, and they can bring in this energy of urgency. uh,
Mm,
got to get it all done. You've got 5 minutes left before the guests show up at a party, and you need to get everything organized, and everything needs to be perfect because things are about to change. The circumstances are about to change. So it can bring in a feeling of urgency or a rushing to get things done,
mm,
which maybe in Virgo can feel a little bit frantic. It could feel a little bit like overscheduling or overbooking or over controlling or trying to do too much or maybe more than you might otherwise need to. So
mm,
acknowledging that, that I also see the last degree of the sign. There is also a wisdom that's present
mm.
there as these
Right.
planets have gone through 29 of the 30 degrees. So they've had so much of that journey
Yeah.
and bringing a lot of that wisdom of Virgo with them. So
Hmm.
the key to me again here would be slowing down and relaxing.
Hmm.
And in some sense, it could be nice to have Saturn there saying, hey, wait a second, slow down. Have
Mm.
you dotted all of your T, like all of your I's? Have you crossed all
Oh,
of your T's? So I do love this. I love Saturn for that. And I love Saturn also here in Pisces for that gift of self-compassion
mhm.
and how that is something we can offer ourselves
Mm.
when we
Yeah.
feel this big change rushing through, and maybe we're trying to organize it, we're trying to maybe direct it, maybe even trying to control it, or maybe trying to make the most of it and running ourselves around like crazy, trying to make the most of it. And that Saturn energy just saying, actually, no, not this, not this, not this. You
Yeah.
need to be more compassionate to yourself. Maybe you need to slow down. Don't dry yourself out.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 Oh, yeah. That's so beautiful, Patrick. And I mean, I was just for a second, my attention was drawn to the fact that we had a new moon in Virgo a month ago. So this is like a second, it almost seems like a second pass through this Virgo energy in a way that's pretty powerful because this is a new moon and an eclipse. But it's not so common that we have like two new moons in a row because, the how the degrees were, I don't know. I don't remember what degree. It was one degree of Virgo or something early in the sign.
Mhm.
So there is even more of that energy of like sort of closing out. It's a bookend in a way. But again, Saturn can tell us, okay, it doesn't have to happen, super quick. Like just take your time. It's going to unfold in a way that, the urgency isn't really necessary, even if it feels like it might be. Yeah.
Absolutely. Saturn giving us the blessings of slow change.
Yeah.
And I'd note too that it's not just this eclipse in opposition to Saturn, that we're in opposition to Saturn and Neptune, sitting
Oh,
down there,
yes.
Neptune
Yes.
at 0 degrees of Aries, at the Aries point, where Saturn and Neptune will come to meet in February. And that Saturn-Neptune conjunction is a huge change and something we're all anticipating very eagerly. And it brings in for me big questions around our experience and the nature of reality.
Hmm. Yeah.
When I think about Saturn is so often associated with like the physical reality that we see manifest around us.
Mhm.
And it's the furthest planet that we can see with the naked eye. So it makes sense to me that it's associated with boundaries and borders. And there's also a stability and a reliability that comes with Saturn. And Neptune has such a different energy. Neptune, which is so wonderfully expansive and so much about the imaginal and about the dream and about what's possible. And when I see these two coming together and I look at the dialogue in the world, or at least in the part of the world that I'm looking at, um, about the nature of reality and consciousness, and that shift into, well, maybe there is no one objective way to see things. Maybe
Hmm.
there is no one truth. Maybe there is no one consensus reality. Maybe there is no one way for things to be. Maybe it's not that our physical world determines our how we experience ourselves. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's that our physical world is reflecting how we experience ourselves, and maybe it is our imagination that
Hmm.
is creating this experience of reality. And maybe our experiences are subjective,
Hmm.
and maybe they're much more fluid and much more open and much more flexible
Yeah.
than we could have imagined. So seeing how this eclipse is connecting those, because the moon has here, the moon and the sun have both just opposed Saturn and they're both preparing to oppose Neptune. So they're really
Right.
connecting those two planets in a way that we're almost getting a preview of what this energy will be like come February. So maybe this is also why we're very aware of talking about the choices that we make about how we see things and
Mhm.
how we view things and how that really does shape our experience of them.
Yeah, yeah, and we've been getting some of those messages for a while because, we did have a very um, close visit and close encounter with Saturn and Neptune when Saturn was in Aries. So we're getting a sense of what that looks like. I think it's like you get a taste of these things in advance. This is kind of one thing I love about astrology too, Patrick, is you're not required to get the whole message all at once, especially when there's a
Mhm.
big kind of influx of energy around this. It's like you get inklings of what it is. And especially with Neptune, like you don't always get the whole picture. Neptune can be a little, a little wily, a little delusional sometimes. But also that sort of illusion and imagination and that sort of deep sense of like envisioning something that's different. There's like that envisioning
Mhm.
of, um, I mean, borders are created, at least in the human world, by humans. And so sometimes those borders can dissolve a little bit, like they can be eroded or be reconceived. And sometimes it's a good thing, where we've put borders or boundaries around something that it actually doesn't make any sense. So it's interesting how that seems to be highlighted in the world at large. And I'm not going to mention any particular news stories, um, but just to ask listeners, viewers to notice that, like what is happening around you that you kind of see as maybe this combination of the Saturn Neptune energies, and that probably will be highlighted some time around this solar eclipse as well.
Yeah. And I also think about something I've experienced over the past few weeks, um, which is if we want to move on to dreaming what comes next and to imagining what comes next, we also need to lovingly accept what is.
Yeah.
And seeing how we're separating here from or that opposition with Saturn, which would certainly be a lovingly accepting what we see before us. And
Right.
then at the same time, holding space for the dream of what comes next.
Mhm.
And here with that eclipse at 29 degrees of Virgo, so that's at the Aries point. It's within 1 degree of the Aries point, which happens right at 0 degrees of Libra. And Neptune is at the Aries point. Saturn is close to the Aries point. Those two will meet at the Aries point, and things that happen at the Aries point, so that 0 degree of a cardinal sign, those are things that happen on the world stage. They are things that are unfolding in the collective. So this also suggests to me big changes in the collective, and that we'll see this energy play out, and that it will likely have long-term impacts.
Yeah.
And if you imagine what our world starts to look like if we all move into this place of knowing that we're dreaming it into existence, that feels very different
Yeah.
from the reality that we maybe grew up living in, or the way that we were taught to consider things, maybe a more scientific materialism perspective of the physical world is all that's here. There's nothing that's animating it behind it. But as we look again at that nodal axis with that North Node pulling us into Pisces, which is much more going into the imaginal, going into the realm of possibility, going into the quantum soup, that the ocean of connectivity, non-local awareness, knowing that we are all present across eternity and space and time, that all that exists is now. And with that Virgo South Node activation here,
Yeah.
really that release of the need to study it, the need to understand it, the need to control it in some way. And if we are going to explore it, exploring it from this position of connectivity
Mhm.
rather than from the existing scientific basis.
Yeah. 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 Good point. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where I see a lot of people really embracing the unknown in a way, like embracing or the unseen. I mean, we often think of intuition like this because sometimes we have a knowing of something and we're not sure how we know it. We just do. And so there is a sense of maybe not needing to explain it so much. I mean, there may be a desire to explain it or desire to understand how it works. But again, it's like sometimes you just know when something is true. And so embracing that and realizing that, there's value in that and there is this ultimate connectivity. I guess I see that sort of with that North Node in Pisces as well. That's interesting how you mentioned that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can see that same energy coming through with the supergalactic center, which is located at 2 degrees of Libra. So that's right near
Yeah.
both where the eclipse point itself is, and it's also right near where the spokesperson or spokesplanet for the eclipse, Mercury, as the spokesplanet for Virgo, or in traditional astrology, we'd say ruler of Virgo, is located in Libra. So that's a big activation on both sides for that supergalactic center. And that supergalactic center, so it's that black hole that sits at the center of the cluster of galaxies that the Milky Way is a part of. And black holes always express a hunger or a need or a desire, something that's attracting us or something that's drawing us in. And with the Virgo energy through that prism, it feels like the need to know, the need to understand, the need to get into it is part of that. And it's an insatiable need and something that we can never fully realize or achieve. The
Mhm.
only way that you ever know yourself is by relaxing into the knowledge that you are yourself. So you just become it. You
Mhm.
are it. You can study yourself into oblivion, and you will never fully be in that sense of knowing that is always available to you.
Mhm.
And it makes me think the same thing around purity, which we mentioned as a Virgo, another Virgo virtue or pursuit. And even that feeling too, if I want to come back to purity, I want to release, I want to let go, I want to let go, I want to like unburden myself so that I go back into this wonderful state of purity that I was born with and that exists with me throughout all time. But again, you can clutter clear and clutter clear and clutter clear and clutter clear and keep getting rid, but you're never going to be able to get rid of everything.
Yeah.
You need to be able to find that sense of purity that already exists within.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with perfectionism. You can keep trying to improve and improve and improve and improve, like, and you will never arrive at a feeling of perfection because the perfection is what exists already within as
Yeah.
that natural state. So I think there's that invitation from that supergalactic center to really know on the inside, well, what if I already am pure?
Yeah.
What if I already am perfect? What if I already know myself? And
Yeah.
with Mercury in Libra, we might even have been experiencing this in relationships,
Hmm.
in one-on-one relationships or in connecting with other people as one way of in connecting with this person, or if I go see this person, or if I have this interaction, then I'll learn more about myself. Well, they will help me purify myself, or
Mm.
they will help me, yeah, they'll help me reach perfection. I'll hire an interior designer and they'll do this right and they'll get this right. And then, through that relationship, I'll somehow become whole again. And again, that invitation from the supergalactic center is to know, well, it's not going to happen in a relationship with someone else.
Mhm.
It's wonderful that we have other people to mirror for us, but it's got to happen on the inside. It's got to be coming from us.
Yeah. 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 That's really important. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know as much about the supergalactic center, Patrick, but as you describe it, it also feels like how people have described the nodes as far as like the North Node being like the hungry dragon's head. So that's interesting to me. Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, it is certainly an attraction point.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting too to note that both Mercury and this eclipse are in aspect to all of the outer planets. We've talked about that opposition with Neptune, and they're also in a grand trine with
Yeah.
Pluto and Uranus. Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini. And that's also a very big activation. Of course, those grand trines, which are bringing a harmonious flow or that powerful connection that's naturally going to be available to both again, that ruling representative or the spokesplanet Mercury and also that eclipse itself. And that really strikes me as another signature for deep, powerful, perhaps even sudden
Yeah.
or cathartic change.
Yeah. 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 And that's sort of there might be also, I mean, when I think about Mercury training Uranus, there's a freedom about it, right? There's a freedom to say things, maybe. There's a freedom to express in a way that is maybe not something that was felt before. There may be a tongue being unleashed kind of feeling of like, now I can say this thing. And it doesn't mean that it is a thing that is um, like things can be said in many ways. So um, bringing up something in a relationship or in a family or whatever it may be, it can be communicated gently and kindly. But sometimes it's like, okay, I have the freedom to say this thing. Maybe I didn't feel it that way before. That can also be very powerful. I mean, this Uranus Pluto um, trine that is in place and has been in place for a while too, that's powerful. It's like there's this freedom, this powerful freedom that comes from being able to say what you need to say. And I don't know, maybe it's here in the Midwest, we often hold back what we need to say. There's a passive aggressive tendency that can sometimes happen. And for me, it's always like I find there's a lot of clarity in being direct with people, and that's probably more challenging for me, but maybe there will be opportunities for that, for people to communicate very clearly, what they need to, and just to trust that that's going to be received, and that that supportive trine energy is like allowing for us to do that in maybe a new way we haven't done before.
I love it. And, I think so much about authenticity too,
Mm, yeah.
both with Uranus and Gemini and also with Pluto and Aquarius. The
Mhm.
power of authenticity, the need to speak the truth, feeling compelled to speak the truth, and it feeling natural to speak the
Mhm.
truth, and the power that we receive when we do that. And how are we releasing all of the ways that we learned or we were taught not to do that because we shouldn't. Virgo can certainly be a place of should, and it can be a place of shouldn't, and it can be a place of refinement and manners and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. So realizing that the truth is always appropriate.
Mhm.
And yes, we are invited to speak it lovingly and gently and kindly. Even when when life can feel like the school of hard knocks, knowing that there is compassion and love that exists behind everything that happens, and also that exists within us, and
Mhm.
embodying that. So, yeah, I really think around about authentic communication is something that is such a wonderful gift that is
Mhm.
available to us as this eclipse snaps into place.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. There's a
My
lot to
God,
like about this, Patrick. The
there
more we
is a
talk
lot to
it
like
through.
about this,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and I'll say too, I've really been feeling it for the past week and a half. These solar eclipses, they're
Yeah.
big events. So we feel them before, we feel them after. It's not just the eclipse happens and then it continues from there. It's really a build up and then it's a build down.
Yeah.
So I've really been aware of how much energy has been moving in my body. I felt it physically, I felt it emotionally, I felt it mentally, I felt it all of the ways.
Yeah.
And one of the practices that I think is just really helpful with eclipse season, because there is so much that's moving, is just going into a place of stillness,
Yeah.
stillness and quietness and just acceptance and just silent witnessing.
Right.
So that's been my practice over the past period of time is when I feel the feels, just slowing down, giving myself time and just being with it, not trying to change it, not wanting it to be other than how it is, but just allowing. So I really encourage everyone out there to embrace this allowing and this acceptance
Yeah.
practice. Just loving acceptance it's a superpower and it moves mountains,
Yeah.
especially now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it's a practice too. So it's also something that, we don't have to do perfectly. Sometimes we will come against things that we just don't want to accept, and can we love ourselves even in that resistance to accept? Because I find that for me is like, there's no point in beating yourself up over not being able to accept. It's just like, okay, this is really hard for me to accept. I love
Yeah,
myself anyway. Yeah.
what a brilliant question. Can I love myself even in the resistance to accept? That is meta acceptance.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah, that one works for me. Oh,
Well,
Patrick,
thank you so
I really
much for
feel
for coming
so
together to talk with me. And how good can it get?
exactly how good can it get? And yeah, just kind of keeping those things in mind and realizing that yeah, we're all moving through quite a bit of energy. And so let's be kind, let's be clear with people, let's take a lot of extra time if we need it, as much as we can
Yeah,
spare. No one ever regrets getting extra rest or a little extra, nourishment in the form of whatever that means to us, whether it's water or fresh air or, yeah, a little pause to check in. That's always good.
absolutely. Well, count our blessings, hope for the best, and know that all is well.
Yeah. So, Patrick, if people want to get in touch with you to learn a little bit more about their chart personally or learn more about something that really struck them in this conversation, where would they go?
Well, people can find me on my Substack, Truth Takes Time. I'll put a link to that down below. And I also do see clients individually. And sometimes I run sessions and workshops, and I communicate those in my Substack as well.
Yes.
And how about you, Christy?
Yes. Well, I just want to say it's such a brilliant Substack. I look forward to reading it every week. So thank you for writing it. Yeah, it's a good place to go. For me, I am doing the Somatic Wisdom podcast. And so you can find that on pretty much all the platforms. My Substack is a little more, I don't know, periodic. It's a little less regular. And I am starting to do readings too. And I have I'll put a link some below here that people want to look at their chart a little more closely. I'm a newbie astrologer and I'm really fascinated by the charts. And so I look forward to connecting with folks who want to learn more.
Wonderful. And I think it's always good to embrace that period of feeling like a newbie. There's nothing better than feeling like a student. I think we all feel that way. And certainly with astrology, there's always more to learn.
Yeah.
So thank you for embodying that.
Yeah, it's totally fun, Patrick. All right, well, thank you. This has been delightful. I hope others enjoyed as well.
Thank you. Bye.